trail, also known as a path or track, is an unpaved lane or a small paved road not intended for usage by motorized vehicles, usually passing through a natural area. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, a path or footpath is the preferred term for a pedestrian or hiking trail. 1. The term is also applied in North America to accompanying routes along rivers and sometimes to highways. In the U.S., the term was historically used for a route into or through wild territory used by explorers and migrants, for example, the Oregon Trail. In the United States, trace is a synonym for trail, as in Natchez Trace. Some trails are dedicated only for walking, cycling, horse riding, snowshoeing, or cross-country skiing, but not more than one use. Others, as in the case of a bridleway in the UK, are shared use and can be used by pedestrians, cyclists, and equestrians alike. Although most trails are for low-traffic, non-motorized usage, there are also unpaved trails used by dirt bikes, quad bikes, and other off-road vehicles, usually for extreme sports and rally races. In some places, like the Alps, trails are used by alpine agrarian communities for moving cattle and other livestock. In Australia, the term track can be used interchangeably with trail or walk and can refer to anything from a dirt road to an unpaved pedestrian path. 2. Photograph of a wooden walkway in a jungle with two people observing a waterfall. Jungle trail inside KLI Airport. In New Zealand, the terms track or walkway are used almost exclusively except when referring to cross-country skiing. Walkways vary enormously in nature, from short urban strolls to moderate coastal locations to challenging tramps. Hikes in the high country. Mountains, 3 walkway is used similarly in St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, where the Grand Concourse is an integrated walkway system. 4. In the United Kingdom, the term trail is in common usage. Longer-distance walking routes and government-promoted long-distance paths, collectively known as national trails, are also frequently called ways, as in the Pennine Way and South Downs Way. Generally, the term footpath is preferred for pedestrian routes, including long-distance trails, and is used for urban paths and sometimes in place of pavement. Track is used for wider paths wide enough for vehicles, often used for hiking. The terms bridleway, byway, restricted byway are all recognized legal terms and to a greater or lesser extent in general usage. The increased popularity of mountain biking has led to a proliferation of mountain bike trails in many countries. 5 Often these will be grouped to form larger complexes known as trail centers. In the early years of the 20th century, the term auto trail was used for a marked highway route. 6 And trail is now used to designate routes, including highway routes designated for tourist interest like the Cabot Trail, Nova Scotia, Canada, and the Quilt Trails in the U.S. The term trail has been used by developers and urban planners for a variety of modern paved roads, highways, and boulevards in these countries, and some highways continue to be officially called a trail, such as the Susquehanna Trail in Pennsylvania, a designation that varies from a 2-lane road to a 4-lane freeway. An unusual use of the term is in the Canadian province of Alberta, which has multi-lane freeways called trails. 7. History, photograph of a dirt trail through a forest. The Natchez Trace is a trail that was created and used by Native Americans in the United States for centuries and was later used by early European and Americans. Further information, ancient trackway, old military roads of Scotland, and hiking section history. Animals created the first trails, which were later adapted by humans. 8. Subsequently, farmers moved cattle to market along drove roads and between winter and summer grazing, creating trails. 9-10 More recently, former industrial routes such as railway rights-of-way and canal towpaths have been turned into recreational trails. Many historic routes like the Silk Road, the Amber Road, and the Royal Road of the Persian Empire existed before the Christian era and covered great distances. The Post Track, a prehistoric causeway in the valley of the River Brue in the Somerset Levels, England, is one of the oldest known constructed trackways and dates from around 3838 BC. 11. The idea of following a path or track for exercise or pleasure developed during the 18th century in Europe and arose because of changing attitudes to the landscape and nature associated with the Romantic movement. 12. In earlier times, walking generally indicated poverty and was associated with vagrancy. 13. 83-297. In previous centuries, long walks were undertaken as part of religious pilgrimages, and this tradition continues throughout the world. The first footpath built specifically for recreational hiking in America, and likely the world, is the Crawford Path in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. The path was blazed in 1819 by Abel Crawford and his son, Ethan Allen. Originally 8.25 miles in length, now 8.5 miles, the trail leads to the summit of Mt. Washington. 14. Types. Trails can be located in different settings for various uses. These can include segregated. Trail segregation, the practice of designating certain trails as having a specific preferred or exclusive use, is increasingly common and diverse. 15. For example, bike trails are used not only on roads open to motor vehicles, but also in trail systems open to other trail users. Some trails are segregated for use by both equestrians and mountain bikes or by equestrians or mountain bikes alone. Designated wilderness area trails may be segregated for non-wheeled use permitting backpacking and horses, but not permitting mountain bikes and motorized vehicles. 16. Often, trail segregation for a particular use is accompanied by prohibitions against that use on other trails within the trail system. Trail segregation may be supported by signage, markings, trail design and construction, especially the selection of tread materials, and by separation between parallel treads. Separation may be achieved by natural barriers including distance, ditching, banking, grading, and vegetation, and by artificial barriers including fencing, curbing, and walls. 17. Bicycle. Main article, bike path. See also bikeway, rail trail, mountain biking, and single-track mountain biking. Bicycle trails encompass a wide variety of trail types, including shared-use paths used for commuting, off-road cross-country trails, and downhill mountain bike trails. Photograph of hikers and mountain bikers on top of a flat rock hill overlooking a forest. Hikers and mountain bikers on top of the Drachenfels Dragon's Rock in the Palatinate Forest, Germany. The number of off-road cycle trails has increased significantly, along with the popularity of mountain bikes. 1819 off-road bicycle trails are generally function-specific and most commonly waymarked along their route. They may take the form of single routes or form part of larger complexes known as trail centers. Off-road trails often incorporate a mix of challenging terrain, single track, smooth fire roads, and even paved paths. Trails with an easy or moderate technical complexity are generally deemed cross-country trails, while trails difficult even to experienced riders are more often dubbed all-mountain, free ride, or downhill. Downhilling is popular at ski resorts like Mammoth Mountain in California, 20 or Whistler Blackcomb in British Columbia, where ski lifts are used to get bikes and riders to the top of the mountain. Eurovelo bicycle routes are a network of currently 17 long-distance cycling routes crisscrossing Europe in various stages of completion. More than 90,000 kilometers, 55,923 miles was in place by 2020-21. Eurovelo is a project of the European Cyclists Federation ECF. Eurovelo routes can be used for bicycle touring across the continent and by local people making short journeys. The routes comprise both existing national bike routes, such as the Dutch LF routes, the German D routes, and the British National Cycle Network, and existing general-purpose roads, together with new stretches of cycle routes to connect them. 22. Off-road cycling can cause soil erosion and habitat destruction if not carried out on established trails. This is true when trails are wet, though overall, cycling may not have more of an impact as other trail users. 23. Cross-country skiing, photograph of a groomed, snow-covered cross-country ski trail. Prepared ski trails for cross-country skiing. Main article, cross-country skiing trail. In cross-country skiing, a trail is also called a track or piste. 20 for recreational cross-country skiing is also called touring, especially in Europe. Some skiers stay out for extended periods using tents and equipment similar to bushwalkers and hikers, whereas others take shorter trips from ski resorts on maintained trails. In some countries, organizations maintain a network of huts for use by cross-country skiers in winter time. For example, the Norwegian Mountain Touring Association maintains over 400 huts stretching across hundreds of kilometers of trails hikers use in the summer and skiers use in the winter. 25. Equestrian, see also, bridle path and trail riding. A combination horse and hiking trail in a suburb of New York City. Horse riding and other equestrian uses of trails continue to be a popular activity for many trail users. 26 horses can usually negotiate much the same grades as hikers, but not always, although they can more easily clear obstacles in the path such as logs. 27. The Bicentennial National Trail (BNT) in Australia is one of the longest marked multi-use trail in the world. Stretching 5,330 kilometers, 3,312 miles from Cooktown, Queensland, through New South Wales to Hillsville. This trail runs the length of the rugged Great Dividing Range through national parks, private property, and alongside of wilderness areas. One of the objectives was to develop a trail that linked up the Brumby Tracks, 26 mustering and stock routes along the Great Dividing Range, thus providing an opportunity to legally ride the routes of stockmen and drovers who once traveled these areas with pack horses. This trail provides access to some of the wildest, most remote country in the world. 26. The Bicentennial National Trail is suitable for self-reliant horse riders, fit walkers, and mountain bike riders. 27. Within the United States National Trail Classification System, 29 equestrian trails include simple day-use bridle paths and others built to accommodate long strings of pack animals on journeys lasting many days. Trail design parameters for these uses include trail base width and material, trail clear width, trail clear height, access to water suitable for stock not human use, and trail routing.
Pedestrians see also footpath, sidewalk, and trail running. An urban footpath in Ipswich, Suffolk, United Kingdom, which prohibits cycling. A footpath is a type of thoroughfare that is intended for use only by pedestrians either within an urban area or through the countryside. An urban footpath is usually called an alley or lane and often paved. See also sidewalk and pavement. Other public rights-of-way, such as bridleways, byways, towpaths, and green lanes are also used by pedestrians. In England and Wales, there are rights-of-way on which pedestrians have a legally protected right to travel. National parks, nature preserves, conservation areas, and other protected wilderness areas may have trails that are restricted to pedestrians. 30 footpaths can be connected to form a long-distance trail or way, which can be used by both day hikers and backpackers. Some trails are over 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers long, 31 in the U.S. and Canada, where urban sprawl has reached rural communities. Developers and local leaders are currently striving to make their communities more conducive to non-motorized transportation through the use of less traditional trails. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation in the U.S. has established the Active Living by Design program to improve the livability of communities in part through developing trails. 32. The Upper Valley Trails Alliance in Vermont has done similar work on traditional trails, while the Somerville Community Path in Somerville, Massachusetts, and related paths are examples of urban initiatives. In St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, the Grand Concourse is an integrated walkway system that has over 160 kilometers 99 miles of walkways, which link every major park, river, pond, and green space in 6 municipalities. 4. Motor and off-road trail leading into a forest. Photograph of deep ruts left by a vehicle that left a posted trail. Damage that occurred when vehicles left the posted trail at Anza Borrego Desert State Park. Main article, Off-roading Z. Also, Jeep Trail. A motorized trail is a trail intended for off-road vehicles, for example 4x4 cars, dirt bikes, all-terrain vehicles ATV. 33. Motorized trail use remains very popular with some people, particularly in the U.S. 34. The Recreational Trails Program, defined as part of the Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act of 1991, mandates that states must use a minimum of 30% of these funds for motorized trail uses. 35. Some members of the U.S. government. 36. And environmental organizations, including the Sierra Club and the Wilderness Society. 37. 38. Have criticized off-road vehicle use on public land. They have noted several consequences of illegal ORV use, such as pollution, trail damage, erosion, land degradation, possible species extinction. 39. And habitat destruction. 40. Which can leave hiking trails impassable. ORV proponents argue legal use taking place under planned access, along with the multiple environmental and trail conservation efforts by ORV groups, will mitigate these issues. Groups such as the Blue Ribbon Coalition advocate tread lightly, which is the responsible use of public lands used for off-road activities. A photograph of a steep logging road climbing through a forest. A British Columbia Ministry of Forests Forest Service road in steep terrain at the Lower Seymour Conservation Reserve near North Vancouver, British Columbia. Canada. Noise pollution is also a concern. 41. And several studies conducted by Montana State University, California State University, the University of Florida and others have cited possible negative behavioral changes in wildlife as the result of some ORV use. 42. Several U.S. states such as Washington have laws to reduce noise generated by off-road and non-highway vehicles. 43.
Water trails, also referred to as blueways or paddling trails, are marked routes on navigable waterways such as rivers, lakes, canals, and coastlines for people using small non-motorized boats such as kayaks, canoes, rafts, or rowboats. Some trails may be suitable for float tubing or developed in concert with motorized use. They include signs and route markers, maps, facilities for parking, boat ramps or docks, and places to camp and picnic. There are also state programs and other promotion for water trails in the United States. 4445. The American Canoe Association has compiled a database of water trails in the United States. 46. The National Park Service Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program has compiled a list of water trail resources, success stories, and statewide contacts for water trails. 47.